January 1848. The American frontier sits quiet beneath a pale California sky. No cities claw at the horizon, no roads carve through the wilderness, just wind, water, and distance that feels endless. At a small construction site along the American River, a man works in the cold morning light. His name is James W. Marshall, and like everyone else here, he is focused on something simple: a sawmill, timber, routine. Nothing about this moment suggests history, until it does. Marshall pauses. Something catches his eye beneath the shallow current. He steps into the river, boots sinking into the mud, and reaches down. What he lifts from the water is small, unremarkable at first glance, but then it gleams, not like stone, not like sand, something heavier, something older, gold. In that instant, the silence of the frontier fractures, because this isn't just a discovery, it's a signal, a spark dropped into dry brush. Within months, whispers will spread beyond this riverbank. Within a year, they will cross oceans. And soon, the quiet wilderness of California will be overrun by a force no one can stop. Not an army, not a government, but people. Thousands of them, all chasing the same thing, and about to change the world forever. The place is remote, untamed, a stretch of wilderness along the American River where ambition feels fragile and survival still comes first. Here, at Sutter's Mill, the goal isn't riches, it's stability. The land belongs to John Sutter, a man chasing something far more controlled than gold. He dreams of an agricultural empire, a self-sufficient kingdom carved out of the frontier. Crops, livestock, industry, order. Gold has no place in that vision. But the river doesn't care about plans. When James W. Marshall finds those first glinting fragments in January 1848, the reaction isn't celebration, it's hesitation. Testing follows, quietly. Metal is heated, hammered, bent. Every result points to the same conclusion. It's real. And that realization lands heavy. Because gold doesn't just promise wealth, it invites attention. It draws movement. It pulls people across impossible distances with a kind of gravitational force no law can contain. Sutter understands the danger immediately. If word gets out, everything he's building could collapse under the weight of it. So they try to keep it hidden. Workers are sworn to silence. The discovery is buried beneath routine, disguised as nothing more than another day's labor. But something has already changed, because once gold is seen, it cannot be unseen. And even in silence, the ground beneath California has already begun to shift. By 1849, the whisper has become a roar. It doesn't travel like ordinary news. It spreads faster, hungrier, crossing borders, languages, and oceans, as if carried by something invisible, something urgent. Gold in California. Not rumored, not imagined, real. And so they come. From the farms and cities of the United States, men abandon steady lives for uncertainty. From China, thousands set sail across the Pacific, chasing opportunity in a land they've never seen. From Mexico, seasoned miners head north, bringing knowledge as well as hope. Europeans follow too, from France and Germany, each carrying their own version of the same dream. They will be called the 49ers. But there's nothing uniform about them. Some travel by wagon, inching across deserts and mountains that seem determined to break them. Others gamble everything on sea routes, sailing thousands of miles around Cape Horn, where storms can swallow entire ships without warning. A few cut through the jungles of Panama, where heat, disease, and exhaustion take their toll long before California is even within reach. Many will never arrive, but enough do, and when they reach California, they don't find order. They find a collision of languages, of cultures, of desperation and belief. Because this isn't just migration, it's a human tide, and it's only just beginning. California doesn't grow, it erupts. What was once quiet wilderness is suddenly crowded with motion. Canvas tents bloom across the landscape like temporary cities, clinging to riverbanks and hillsides. Fires burn through the night. Tools strike earth in a constant rhythm that never quite stops. And at the center of it all sits San Francisco. Just months earlier, it was little more than a scattered settlement. Now it swells beyond recognition. Ships clog the harbor, many abandoned where they drift. Their crews are gone, swallowed by the same fever pulling everyone inland. Buildings rise as fast as they can be assembled. Roads form from nothing but footsteps and wagon tracks. Prices soar. A single meal can cost more than a day's labor back east. Fortunes appear overnight and vanish just as quickly. Because beneath the energy, something unstable is taking shape. Law struggles to exist here. There are no systems strong enough to keep pace with the flood of people. Disputes turn violent, claims are stolen, camps fracture under pressure. Hope and greed begin to blur together. For every man who finds gold, dozens leave with empty hands, their dreams worn thin by exhaustion and time. This is the other side of the rush, not the promise, but the strain. Because when thousands chase the same dream at once, the ground doesn't just shift, it cracks. By now, the truth begins to settle in the dust. The gold rush is not a straight road to fortune. It is a maze built on expectation, and most who enter it never find the center. Along the rivers and hills of California, miners work with relentless hope, panning, digging, sifting through endless sediment that looks the same at sunrise as it does at sunset. Every glint of yellow might be the moment everything changes, but for most, it isn't. Weeks turn into months, supplies run low, hands crack, morale thins, and eventually, many pack up what little they have left and move on, carrying nothing but stories of what almost was. Yet while the miners struggle, others begin to thrive, not with shovels, but with supply chains, food vendors, tool makers, merchants who sell certainty in uncertain times. In a land obsessed with gold, even basic necessities become priceless. And then there's Levi Strauss. He doesn't search the rivers. He doesn't chase rumors. He simply notices a need. Miners destroying their clothing in harsh conditions. From that observation comes something far more durable than luck. Reinforced workwear that outlasts the rush itself. Because in a system built on chance, stability becomes the rarest resource of all. And so the irony deepens. The people who risk everything for gold often leave with less than they arrived with, while those who sell the tools, the food, and the fabric of survival quietly build fortunes that endure long after the rivers are emptied. The surface story of the gold rush is movement, energy, expansion. But beneath it, something far more permanent is being rewritten. The land itself begins to change. Rivers are diverted, dredged, and torn apart in the relentless search for deposits. Hillsides collapse under excavation. Forests thin as timber is consumed faster than it can regrow. The environment is not simply used, it is reshaped, aggressively, almost impatiently, as if the earth is being forced to reveal its secrets by sheer pressure alone. But the deepest consequences are not geological. They are human. Indigenous communities across California are pushed aside, displaced from ancestral lands that suddenly hold new value in the eyes of outsiders. Violence spreads, disease follows. Entire populations are reduced in a fraction of the time it took them to build their worlds. The gold rush is often remembered as opportunity, but for many, it is loss, measured in generations. And yet the machine keeps moving, because momentum, once it begins at this scale, is difficult to stop. New towns appear faster than old ones can stabilize. Law tries to catch up, but it is always a step behind the flood of people pouring in from every direction. Even those who arrive chasing fortune begin to realize something unsettling. This place is not just being discovered, it is being transformed. And nothing, land, law, or life, will remain untouched by the weight of what has been unleashed. By the early 1850s, the rush begins to harden into permanence. The chaos doesn't disappear, but it organizes itself. Camps become towns, trails become roads, and what once felt like a temporary frenzy starts to resemble something more enduring, a new center of gravity on the edge of a continent. In 1850, California is no longer just territory. It becomes a state within United States, not gradually, but urgently, as population surges force political reality to catch up with human movement. San Francisco grows from a fragile port into a defining hub of trade and migration. Supply routes stretch across mountains and oceans. Banking systems, shipping networks, and trade corridors expand outward to meet the demand of a population that arrived almost all at once. But the real transformation is larger than borders. The gold rush accelerates everything it touches. It reshapes migration patterns across the globe, pulling workers from China, Europe, Latin America, and beyond into a shared destination they now recognize as California. It fuels infrastructure that will later support railroads pushing further west. It strengthens the United States' reach toward the Pacific, altering its economic and strategic future in ways no one fully planned for. Yet the gold itself begins to fade as the engine driving it. The surface deposits thin, rivers yield less, the easy fortunes disappear, and slowly the rush quiets, not with a single ending, but with a realization spreading quietly among those still digging. The world has already changed, and there is no going back to what came before. In the end, the gold was never the only thing being extracted. What began as a discovery at Sutter's mill became something far larger than anyone standing on that riverbank could have imagined. The gold itself would come and go, pulled from stone, traded, spent, and lost again in the churn of fortune. But the movement it created never truly stopped. The gold rush bent the map of human ambition. It pulled people across oceans, stitched distant nations into a single shared destination, and forced rapid cities into existence where there had been none. It accelerated migration, commerce, and infrastructure at a speed the world had never seen before. And in doing so, it left behind something harder to measure than wealth: a reshaped frontier, a transformed society, a reminder that entire worlds can change not through slow evolution, but through sudden ignition. For some, California became the place where dreams were found. For others, it became where they disappeared. And for the land itself, it was a moment of irreversible transformation. Rivers altered, forests thinned, histories interrupted, and new paths carved into the future, whether it was ready or not. The gold rush faded as an event, but it remained as a pattern, because even long after the camps emptied and the rivers calmed, the idea it unleashed kept echoing outward, that somewhere out there, just beneath the surface of the world, something still waits to be found, and people will always come looking.